Hello, I'm back talking about my experiences part 2 at Butch Voices LA. So awesome. I seriously am thinking about framing this and putting it on my wall, really, especially because of Judith Jack Halberstam's autograph. I am like in love with Judith Jack Halberstam. So let me continue to go out of order with my little notes that I jotted down. I might as well mention that right now. Okay, so on Saturday, in between the workshops at the conference, I'm just going to say Jack because that's what was on Judith Jack's name tag. I actually don't totally know how she identifies, so I'll just say she because I like that. Okay, so she gave an awesome speech. And, I mean, she's a professor, she's very intellectual, which appeals to me, because I'm nerdy too. So, she was talking about some ideas that seem similar to what she wrote in Female Masculinity. Like, for instance, she was talking about parenting, like lesbian parenting or butch parenting, as kind of a specific example that can show us some radical aspects of butchness. So she was talking about the trans guy who is pregnant, and also the trans guy who came out and said that he had been pregnant before this guy, but that it wasn't in the press or whatever. She was talking about how it's interesting that the public is open to hearing about that now, whereas, according to her, there had been pregnant trans guys in the past, but they didn't get in the press because, like, the public was not ready for it at all whatsoever before, and now they are a little bit ready, even if they think it's really weird. I don't know. But, she was talking about the idea of the butch dad, which I guess she has heard a lot about or known people who are butch dads or something. So she said that she's seen the children of some lesbian couples that include a butch dad, and the kids will make up terms for their dad. Like, if they go to school, they're talking to their friends. These kids don't realize that it would be weird to have a dad who's a butch female or a butch lesbian. And unfortunately, the kids do find out that the other kids think that's weird. But, so the kids would say, like, oh, well, my dad is an in-betweener. Or, oh yeah, my dad is, like, half and half. Which I thought was really cute. And the kids were, like, really earnestly trying to explain this to their friends at school. So Judith Jack Halberstam was saying that kids growing up in such a family would potentially learn or see that gender is not attached to the body. Gender is not attached to sex. It's something that you do, not something that you are, which is similar to what Judith Butler wrote in Gender Trouble, and I guess Judith Halberstam subscribes to that. I mean, I certainly do. You know, the kids could get the idea that gender is performed. It's not something that is just like a natural product of the body. So I thought that was really cool, and also she said that a kid with a butch parent could see that you can have masculinity without it being male or dominating, violent, patriarchal. That was the big one. You can have masculinity without it being connected to maleness or patriarchal power. So I thought that was really awesome. It's just a cool idea for me to think about, regardless of the idea of a kid being involved. And, you know, a lot of people, I guess, like, young people these days are like, oh, the patriarchy, it's such a 70s thing to talk about the patriarchy. The patriarchy is gonna come and ruin everything. Like, people are like, that's kind of an outdated, stupid thing. Like, if you talk about the patriarchy, you're just complaining or something like that. But, you know, it does exist. And hearing people talk about those issues this weekend, I was thinking, you know, I don't want to be one of those, like, apathetic queer people who's like, we don't have problems anymore. There's no patriarchy, whatever. We don't need to talk about that. Like, that's been talked about. That's been figured out. Like, that doesn't do anybody any good to have that kind of attitude. And I think that issues of patriarchy are still really entwined in a lot of parts of our life and in ways that people view or perform masculinity. So I want to keep that in mind because I really do think it's important. Anyways, so relating again to that speech of Judith Halberstam's, I was like, oh, maybe I could be a butch dad. If there are other people out there who are doing it, maybe I could. Because, you know, as I think I've mentioned, I get so excited about the idea of having a kid, or obtaining a kid in some fashion. I get so excited when I think about being a dad rather than a mom. And so then I would think, like, well, maybe that means that I'm trans, because if you want to be a dad, maybe that means you're male. But, you know, now I'm like, come on, I can do what a dad could do regardless of whether I've got freaking hair on my face, you know? And, you know, that maybe it would cause problems or cause conflicts or, like, raise up people's homophobia or gender phobia if I was called a dad. But, you know, at a certain point, you can't stop yourself from doing stuff because of other people's stupid closed-mindedness. So I think I've just been so scared lately about what other people think, and scared of facing people's stupidity and meanness. But I've got to let go of that, and this conference really made me see that. Like, there's a big community of people out there who do not fit into the gender norms, like butch women who are not FTM and don't care about passing one way or the other. So I realized that people are standing up for themselves, being proud, being what they want to be. It can happen, and life is so much better if you do it, you know? Like, if you're yourself, a butch woman, you go to the conference, meet other people, help them learn to stand up for themselves and to be who they really are. Like, that's so important, and I am really sick of feeling afraid every single time I go out in public. Just not even afraid that maybe afraid that I'm gonna get beat up, even though I don't think that's very realistic. But just afraid of something, even though nothing bad really has happened to me because of my gender or sexuality, but I'm still really afraid, and I'm just so sick of it. Like, I do not want to have that anymore. Like, I just want to be a butch woman dad, if that's what I want to be. So, I'm so glad that this conference has gotten me thinking about this stuff. So, okay. Yeah, well, let's see, should I say this now? Well, before I go on, let me show you this awesome picture that I might put on my wall to keep myself reminded of this wonderful experience. So, look at this. Here we have, let's see, can you see this? Where is it? Yeah, there it is. That is me with Judith, aka Jack Halberstam. Woohoo! Yeah. That was so exciting. After her speech, I got to meet her, and she shook my hand, and she was like, oh, tell me about yourself. What's your name? Where are you from? So I told her that I taught English, and I told her that I used her book for stuff that I wrote in my master's program, and I told her that her book meant a lot to me, and just her existence meant so much to me, and she's very gracious and thankful. She's just really nice. It was a dream come true. She's such an awesome role model for me. So, it was so awesome, so awesome. Wow, I'm talking way more than I planned because I'm so excited. Okay. Shall I stop or keep going? I'll stop and continue in just a moment. Please hold.